Okay. Hello. We're going to be interviewing Joe Mynhardt today, and I'm going to start with introductions. So tell us a little bit about yourself, please, Joe.
Yo, hi Anita. That's a difficult one. Most people know me from my online presence. I've been a bit camera shy over the years, but I'm trying to change that now. So it's actually quite difficult to sum up everything that I've revealed of myself over the years. But for now, let's just say Joe Maynard, founder, CEO, used to just edit and publish. Now I'm editing and writing the odd non-fiction and or fiction anthology here and there. But otherwise, my main job is just publishing, marketing, running the company, and just venturing into new fields and growing our reach. Um, Working with authors, connecting with readers, and just building the company day by day. It's in as many ways as possible, across as many formats as possible, because I love stories in any format, whether it's a game, comic book, books, audio, anything. So I would love to work in all those fields eventually, movies as well. There's nothing I don't want to do.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about Crystal Lake Entertainment. What's the company? What does it represent?
When we evolved over into Crystal Lake Entertainment, the idea was to represent, well, the idea still is to represent a story um, for the full range. So whatever we can't do for the author, we will find the people who can do it. So we will represent let's say now, the book rights, digital, paperback, hardcover, perhaps a limited edition. We'll do some merchandise, we'll do an audiobook, and then we'll look into comic books, graphic novels, which we are starting now ourselves. Um, I can't say too much yet, but I'm setting up a contract now for our first board game, which is based on a best-selling book, not one of our books, but it's a board game based on a book. It should be out in about 2 years. So that is what we do. We connect with the gaming people in the gaming industry, movies, producers, everything. We just build a contact list, and then we represent as many of the rights as we can. And if we feel we can't do a good job with it, then we don't ask for that right. And if the author, if it's not available, we're not going to push them on anything. I just want to show authors through example by what we the deals that we do get done, translations, everything, that their work is in safe hands. So for me, it's about spreading the stories, promoting author careers, not just one book, the entire career of the author, whether their book is all the books are with us or spread across different publishers, which I actually recommend. I don't want an author to stick with just one publisher. um, so that's just a quick summary of Crystal Lake for me.
That sounds wonderful. So what are your publishing aims and goals for the company? I mean, you've talked a little bit what you're offering authors, but what are you offering readers as well?
One of the biggest joys of this job for me is actually connecting with readers. For someone who has a bad memory and I'm bad with names, somehow I managed to get to know the readers and actually remember what they like. So when something comes along, I immediately think, man, John is going to love this. And I'll message them, email them, send recommendations, but not in a sales pitchy kind of way. Really like a friend just recommending a book to another friend. And I try to set up communities like we have on Patreon or just on Facebook, where readers can ask questions. If I can't help them, I'll tag the author. We'll set up interviews as rewards where readers get to chat with the author. We've even had a few books where there's a competition link inside, and readers who pre-order the book can win a chat with the author after they finish reading the book. So we try and somehow include the readers as well. We don't just send out arcs to the big reviewers and the magazine and the bloggers. We even send arcs to readers specifically, so that on launch day they can be part of it and they can post their reviews. We can send them links to Facebook groups where they can share reviews as well. We'll thank them publicly, um, sometimes even inside the books or on our Patreon page. And whenever an idea comes along, to involve the readers, I'll do that again.
Okay, so that sounds lovely. So, how are you branching out in the company? You mentioned board games and comics, but I believe you're going to be branching out into other genres as well, other than horror?
I'd love to focus more on fantasy and eventually science fiction, but we all know there are varying degrees of science fiction, just like there are in other genres. Um, my the books I remember reading as a kid were science fiction books, which gave me my love for reading, not as much or so much as when I read Frankenstein and Dracula for the first time. I think I was about 9 years old. um, but it still started for me there. But when I pick up some science fiction books lately, it's very technical. There are some terms that I completely don't understand, which I know there you get the hardcore science fiction readers, but I don't want Crystal Lake just to be boxed in. For me, it's about great stories. We have done some romance audiobooks, and we're starting now with coloring books that are not in the horror genre at all, although I am busy with one now for horror fans. And we've also done a memoir kind of book about a tragic accident where a child was lost. But most of these cases, it's actually where I just try and help authors. It's a good book. I've read the book. I've uh, judge it just like we would any open submission. And I decided to help the authors because there was no one else to help them. Even if it's not in our genre, I help them and they just keep like 90% of the royalties. The 10% is basically just for us for admin fees. Because why not? Why not help someone? And it's still a good story. It's just difficult to find the readership then because we haven't been looking for them. But I'll slowly start building mailing lists for other subgenres as well. And in 10 or 20 years, who knows what we'll do by then. But I'll never neglect the horror fans and horror readers, writers, etc.
Okay, so you also have a Patreon page. So tell us about Crystal Lake's Patreon.
I started the Patreon page for Crystal Lake, and I believe 2016 when I first decided, well, I had the opportunity to quit my day job and publish full time. I was quite confident in where the company was at that time, but you always see these other companies close down after a few years. So I had to make sure on a financial basis that we could afford it. So I think Patreon was about 1 or 2 years old then, and a lot of authors started doing it. So I decided, well, let's see how it goes if a small press opens a Patreon page. We have more content to share. We've got more cover reveals and behind the scenes access than one author would have. So I started the page, and it grew quite quickly after that. And every now and then I add new features for other readers, like our Shallow Waters Flash Fiction contests, where they basically get a story in the email every day, and at the end of the month they vote for the best ones. Or features for authors. Sometimes we'll have giveaways and contests, and just things you won't see anywhere else, not even in our newsletter. And everything else that we do is always shared there first a day or two before we go to the newsletter and social media. For me personally, it's the only place where I've been I connected on a more personal level with readers and authors where some people got to know me, because I try not to post too many things on social media that is not work related. So I'd share behind the scenes content about even my little girl and personal family issues when A lot of my family members passed away, and we also connect with the readers and the fans there. Lots of authors on our Patreon page, and a lot of them I've come to know, and I've seen them grow as authors, and a lot of them eventually got published by us, not because became friends, but they managed to put themselves on my radar. I read their work many times. Some of them won our flash fiction contests, and eventually, when it was open submissions, and I saw, oh, there's a book by this author that I've known now for at least 2 years. I'm familiar with their work. It might even be set in the same world or universe that some of these flash fiction stories have taken place, and I'm immediately more intrigued than a submission by someone I've never even heard about. I'll give them all the same opportunity, but already I'm more interested.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty reasonable attitude on it. So, tell us a little bit about the Shadows and Ink site on Heartbeat. What are your goals there, and how is it going to benefit authors, and what are you offering authors over there?
Shadows and Ink, I've got big plans for it. It's basically it's a all-in-one program, authors forum, a book, workshops. There will be free. The free tier will have a lot of content and authors and video lessons, and then there will be the paid tiers, which will be more for authors who have book releases coming up, or they've been published. They need more than the basic care an author would need who's still building or starting a career. um, we will help with book launches. We will build mailing lists together. I'll share my expertise, and even the money that we do make from the paid tiers will go towards building mailing lists. So the authors can come together. We will create lead magnets and books, and we'll give them away for free in exchange for email addresses for, let's say, a vampire mailing list. Fans of vampire fiction, zombies, any subgenre in the horror genre that we can think of. So when these authors have their book launches, instead of paying these 99-cent promo sites that are very expensive, and they don't really cater for horror authors that much. They say they do, but you you'll pay $40 and then you get two or three sales. Uh, this will be completely different because we will build these lists. We will sending them content, and it won't cost anything other than the normal. I think they believe it will be $10 a month for the tier you're on. Uh, there will be a mastermind group as well. There's still a lot to figure out exactly how we're going to do that. Luckily, we are still in a beta test at the moment. We are launching January 10th. There will be some guest speakers there on the day. We'll have some special events. And basically, on that day, we'll open up the link for everyone. This is not a site you can find just through a normal Google search. You need an invite link. But on that day, we will share the link on social media, the website, our newsletter. I'm already building up mailing lists for specifically authors. I have quite a few lead magnets out there already, um, just to build on this. And 2 days later, my book will be out, also called Shadows in Ink. It'll launch for free because we're trying to reach as many authors as possible. Then we're going to go over to 99 cents for about a week, where I can utilize those 99-cent promo sites, whether they work or not. Um, I still need to make sure a lot of these sites are utilized and tested, because I still launch books for other authors, fiction books, and I need to know which ones work and which ones don't. Sometimes they work for a while, or they work for certain subgenres. Maybe young adult, not books that have too much horror. Some prefer anything with a bit more fantasy. So every time I run these sales, I make notes. And these are things the authors don't have to do because I do it. So I can share already uh, the tried and tested and the results with them. That's what the heartbeat is all about. It's just everyone coming together and sharing what resources and skills and contacts they've already attained over the years. We leave the egos at the door and we just all come together as the horror writing community that we all know is such an amazing community. And so this will be the place for everyone to hang out and grow as authors. I hope.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're going to be handling some of the marketing and the data scraping that authors hate so much. So I'm sure that will appeal to people. So, what would be the most important piece of writing advice that you would give novice authors from your experience working with them?
The most important thing authors need to remember is the old saying that it takes 20 years to become an overnight success. There's so much more to being an author than just one book. You need to look way ahead into the future. Look at the next 5 to 10 years. Where do you want to be? Break it down into yearly goals and then break it down into monthly targets and smaller goals, and just keep writing, keep building your mailing list. Because if you sell a book to someone, you already paid a lot of ads, you built the buzz, everything just to get a sale to that one person. Now, next time you have a new book, you have to start all over again. You have no idea what that person's name was, if you found them through Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, wherever they came from. So, if you use lead magnets, if you have newsletter signups inside your book, there are many places where you can put it, then at least it's growing. So every time you launch a book, whether you self-publish or through a publisher, you have those contacts. Um, you build up reviewer lists, bloggers, influencers, and every time you launch a book, you reach out to those people. So your base target market is growing with every release. Your reputation is growing, your skills are growing, you're always moving forward. So even if a book is a failure, doesn't matter, you just keep going on. You can always revise it, you can make that book free as a lead magnet, you can put a new cover on it after a few years, relaunch. Now, there are so many things an author can do to pivot and improve their career, but a lot of authors stop writing if the first book doesn't sell well. That doesn't mean it's a bad book. Uh, there are so many things that can go wrong with a book launch. And we've had books where we did everything we could, it didn't work. We've had books that, well, we've seen books that were rushed and they worked. The, the authors would, there would be some bad reviews, and then we just recommend to authors, fix it, republish it. Just don't give up. Don't accept, oh, there's a mistake in my book, and do nothing about it. A big part of my job is just fixing things, looking into problems, arguing with Amazon and Goodreads and all these places on behalf of the author so that they can just keep on writing and no stress. That's why I also say some authors can self publish, some authors will also always need a publisher, because it's a full-time job being a publisher, and it can be a full-time job being an author, and doing both is just, I can't even imagine if I had to do it myself. I have been writing lately on the non-fiction book for Shadows and Ink, and the only way can get it done is by getting up at like 5 a.m. and trying to write for 2 or 3 hours before my little one wakes up. That's the only way.
Yeah, I've heard that story from many writers. So, what advice would you give authors when submitting to a publisher? What would your tips for submission be?
A publisher likes to see beyond just the how good the book and the story is. They want to see that you are prepared, you are motivated. This person, they've done their research, they know what's expected of them, before the launch, during the editing phases, during the launch, afterwards. Keep writing. I just want to see someone that's gonna go with me and battle to get this book out in the world. Who is really passionate about the story without the ego and saying, "Oh, I'm the next this author or that author." Basically, just showing me that you. It's almost like you have a bit of experience already, and that helps a publisher know what they're getting into. And the moment they see, okay, if the writing is good, this person knows what they're doing. It's There's just so many of these little green lights going off that this could work. We can make this book work, and then that book will enter basically a list, even if it's just in my mind, of which books to choose from. Uh, and of course, then it comes down to whatever competition you have. But if you can already show a publisher that side, and it doesn't matter if it's your first book or if your previous book didn't sell well, if you can show us that you have been building uh, your brand and getting your name out there, um, whether there is a mailing list or not, at least you, you need to get the readers. You've got the social media aspect covered. Um, the rest we can teach you, and whatever I do teach or show you, I know you're going to do it because that drive is there. It's not just here's my book, I hope you like it, and they move on to the next one.
So you want the authors to be involved in their own process of marketing and putting the book out.
As much as they can. I know it's not always possible, but I've had situations where authors took 2 or 3 months just to update their website with their new book. If readers like to connect with the author, share the success. So every time an author posts about, okay, my book's been out a week. Yes, I can't believe all the great reviews that have come in. They're sharing the excitement. It can be before the launch when they say, my book is finally on pre order. The first professional reviewers come in. Every time they share these little tidbits, it gets the fans, the readers, their supporters excited and reminds them of the book every time instead of just going to Facebook pages and saying, I wrote a book, here it is, and basically spamming people. So, this kind of natural word of mouth way of just reminding people, I'm an author, here's my book, I'm so excited, I'm still a down to earth person that needs your support, I can't do this without you. Those are the types of stories and underdog messages that gets people excited and they want to support.
Okay. Yes, that's very true. So I think we'll wrap the interview up here, and I'd like to thank you for being a guest today. It was a very great pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you, Anita. Always a pleasure.
Okay, and that's it. So bye for now.